And if you're new, welcome. Thanks so much for stopping by. I really appreciate you. So today we're going to do a little book review, kind of spoilerish, I guess. That is with Seaside Mystery by Anne Hodgman. Not sure. This book was published in 1987. So it is 35 years old, just like me. This is a choose your own adventure book. And once you start reading it, there are 23 possible scenarios that can happen in this book. I did not read it 23 times, but I read it well into like the teens. Multiple times. Lots of different endings, but I did write down like 4 or 5 actual endings. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, 5. And we're going to talk about those. So this right here, like I said, is called Seaside Mystery. And this one you are talking with a mermaid. And you have to decide if you want to go with her or not. And if you go with her, certain things happen. And if you stay behind, other things happen. So, I kind of wrote it out. So I'll be looking down a little bit. So from pages 1 through 3... you find out your parents are going to go to Europe in August, and they send you to Harbor View Hotel in Clams Bay. You had hoped for the resort to be filled with families so you can find some friends to make, but you're the only kid there. And there's a group of old ladies, and they spend the day talking about the town and how the hotel used to be, like how many people used to come, so that's the highlight of their day, I guess. And then, like, the old ladies are nice enough, but there's one old lady named Mrs. Klemp, who, she's the owner of this hotel slash boarding house, whatever you want to call it, and she does not like you, because it is about you. You are the main character. There's no name for the main character in the book, so you play that part. And it says when you go down for breakfast, as soon as you walk in, she's already glaring at you. Every chance she gets, she's watching you, which yes, she is in charge of watching you because your parents dropped you off there. But like, she is hawk eye. You can't even go swimming without her sitting on her balcony with a pair of binoculars. Like, she's always in your business, always trying to see what you're doing. And I get it. You're a kid. You're here by yourself. You have no parents. But relax, lady. So, then, because you read pages 1 through 3. And then you jump to page 5. And on page 5, you're in your bed and you hear somebody crying. So you put on a robe and you go investigate. And at this point, you're given your first opportunity to choose which way you want to go. So, page 5 tells you to go to page 12 and 13, and she tells you that the mermaid is the person who was crying. She tells you her name is Tana, and that she's looking for her friends, and you have to decide to go with her to find her friends or go back to your room. So, first scenario I chose. I decided to go with her. So, it says, page 36, you decide to go with her to find the mermaids. And then you have the option at that point to start right away or wait to get your bearings under the water. I went right away. You head first for the oyster beds. You're tired, but it's only 5 more miles, so you swim to keep going. Like, you keep going to find them. You find a mermaid scale in one of the oyster shell, like one of the oysters, because you were trying to find pearls, but you found a shell. So at that point, not a shell, a scale, excuse me, a mermaid scale. So you knew they were there. So you and Tana keep going, and then you start hearing noises. So y'all follow it, and you wind up finding all of the other mermaids, her friends, and they're singing and playing with pearls from the oysters. And then you decide at that point to stay and play because you could have left. Because at this point, the mermaid already gave you something to put on that if you have it on, you can breathe underwater, talk underwater, the whole 9 yards. But if this comes off, you're toast. So you choose to stay with them, and they give you an outfit. Because at this point, remember, you're still in your robe and your pajamas. So they made her make you a seaweed tunic, and they ask, what do you want to do? They give you 3 options. At that point, you picked, hey, let's go look at the ship that's coming. So you go look at the ship, you swim there, and when you get there, you realize that the mermaids are doing like a siren song, and they're calling all the people off of the ship. So at that point, they're like, hey, let's explore this ship. So again, you decide, and at this point, I decided to explore the ship. So they get everybody off of the ship, and then they sink it so that you can swim through and look at all the stuff. And then, of course, they get bored. So they're like, hey, do you want to go to the whirlpool? You say, yeah, why not? So you go to the whirlpool, and the mermaids are jumping into the whirlpool, and then they're getting like a little compartment that like sucks them out or whatever. So they have like this, almost like a slide, I guess you'd say. So you decided to go and do that. But guess what happened? While you were in the whirlpool, the necklace came off. You died. You died. So my first adventure, I died. And that was the pretty funny thing, because this is a kid's book. I think it says ages 10 and up, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, ages 10 and up for this book. And I died. Like multiple times as we go along. So that happened. So then at this point, the next adventure I decided to go on, I decided to go back inside instead of going with the mermaid. Like, because you repeated all the same steps up until the point she's asking you to decide which way to go. So you decided to go back inside. Well, when you went back inside, Mrs. Klemp saw you, and she was telling you, like, she saw what you were out there talking to somebody, and it says Miss Klemp tells you she will be watching because she doesn't like kids and doesn't trust you. If she sees anything peculiar, she will call the law. You need to warn Tana. But when do you do it? Now or tomorrow? So in this case, what did I choose? Where was I at? Okay, you go now, but you tell Tana to go away from there, but she's refusing because the others may come back for her in this area. You have to make Tana leave, so you pick on her and say she isn't brave enough to find her friends on her own. You get back to bed, you're perfectly innocent, even though Mrs. Klemp is side-eyeing you. 3 days later, there's a tremendous hurricane up the coast. The newspaper is filled with stories of floods and tidal waves. One headline reads, "Mermaid washed up on shore during storm." Was it Tana? Was it one of her friends? You'll never know. So again, murder. The mermaid or her friends, one of them is dead. So I'm like, is this really for a 10-year-old? It was entertaining, I'm going to say. Having to make the decisions to see where the book goes, it's very entertaining. So for this next one, I did everything. For this one, I went back inside. Mrs. Klemp caught me, and at that point, I have to warn her now or tomorrow. That's where we're at with this one. So I decide tomorrow I'm going to warn her. So early the next morning, you go down to tell her, and you find her underwater on a rock. You pull her to the surface to say someone's watching, that you must leave. And then Miss Klemp says, from behind you, y'all need to come ashore. So at that point, you're deciding to stay where you are or get away by swimming away with the mermaid. So you stay where you are, and Miss Klemp sees Tana's tail and says, "That's what I thought." So she thought it might have been a mermaid. So at that point, she was like, good thing I called the Coast Guard and the paparazzi, news cameras before I came down here. And then she said, like, y'all were about to go, like you were thinking about leaving at that point, and a cage shows up and closes her in there. So the cage starts to rise, and you grab onto the cage and basically hijack a ride. And they're like telling you to get off, and she's like, no, I'm in her interpreter. So you make them think that she doesn't speak English or whatever. So you go and you figure you're going to help her escape. because it's kind of your fault that she's been captured. A few hours later, you're perched on a rock in an aquarium. You convince them to hire you as her interpreter and give her a day to herself before putting her on display. And at this point, they've already paid you a paycheck, 1 week paycheck. So you are planning her escape now. You rush out to a pharmacy. You're going to buy a wheelchair, robes, sheets, the whole 9 yards to disguise her. And you come back and to the aquarium via taxi, and you tell the taxi to wait. And then you run up to the security guard, because they have security around where y'all are at, and say, hey, there's a problem, something major going on at the Shark Tank, whatever. So security takes off. You get in there, you get Tana out, you bundle her up, make her look like a sick old lady or something, and you tell the taxi to get you to the pier. So when you get to the pier, you get to the end, and you say your goodbyes and apologize for getting her in this mess, and she thanks you for getting her out of it. You flip the wheelchair over and run. And everybody around you is like, even in the photo, because it's like little illustrations, they're looking at you like, oh my God, did you just push an old lady into the water and now you're taking off? So at least this time, nobody died. And everybody's able to escape. The question is, though, you have to go back to Mrs. Klemp. See, they didn't put this part in the book, but who knows what's going to happen to you when you get back to Miss Klemp. And then for the next scenario, I decided to go with her. Like I went back down to the beach and I decided to go with the mermaid. And at that point, instead of immediately going find her friends, I decided, hey, I need to get used to this. I need to get used to swimming. So that's what we did. And she shows me some of the stuff you can do and how to go deeper into the water. And then you're like, hey, can we go back up? It's kind of like, we're way down here. It's kind of dark. So you go back up, and then she asks you, do you want to go north to the iceberg or south to the coral reefs? So you decide to go coral reefs. After a while exploring the coral reefs, y'all forget about the mermaids. Before you know it, days have passed, and you're never leaving the ocean again. You're deciding to live with her forever. So at that point, you kind of go missing from your human life, and you live under the sea with a mermaid now. As long as you have that necklace on, you are good to go. And then I did another scenario where I went with her and I did everything the same up until she asks north or south. So then I decided to go north to the icebergs. And the water is colder, but suddenly it's warmer and you smell something. Tana says she doesn't smell it. So the bottom of the ocean cracks and a sea witch comes out. The witch asks you, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing here? And the mermaid is struck with horror. So you try to escape. At this point, you're either trying to escape or you apologize for trespassing. So you and Tana swim off as fast as you can, but you realize you aren't really moving. You are being pulled back in. So y'all grab hands and are thrust back into the sea witch. So at that point, you are now her captive. Maybe she's going to eat you. Again, another death. Like, what the heck? All my scenarios, there was only one scenario where I didn't die, or two. One, I didn't die, and I stayed a mermaid the whole time. And the other one, I didn't die because I helped Tana escape. So it was pretty cool to kind of go through all the different scenarios. I'm sorry about this train. Pretty sure y'all can hear it. All the different scenarios to see how your life, your adventure with this mermaid is going to play out. So, like I said, there was a lot more, but those are the ones that I kind of wrote down to give you an idea of what would happen. And the way it looked in the book, for instance, like right here, it says, page 47 at the bottom, if you decide to start looking now, turn to page 65. If you decide to get used to being underwater first, turn to page 7. Because as I was reading it at first, I was like, okay, we're skipping page 4. And then we skipped another page. And I'm like, are we ever going to read these pages? Like, they're in the book. Obviously, they have to be some part of it. But it depends on your decision making, which pages you're going to come back to the beginning for, and which pages you're going to go towards the end. And a lot of pages have the words, the end, on each page. So, like I said, I had a good time. It was pretty adventurous. I do have one more book like that, and that one is about a samurai. So, I might read that one too, just to see how many different, I think that one was 26 adventures. So, just to see how different it is compared to this one. So, have you ever read an adventure book? Did you enjoy it? I did. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye, guys.